Today we're taking a look at the new 2025 Toyota Camry and its all-wheel drive system. We're going to put it through the TFL slip test, which is an all-wheel drive torture test, and see if it's any better than the outgoing Camry all-wheel drive. In this video, we're going to toss back and forth between the previous generation all-wheel drive Camry and the brand new 2025 all-wheel drive Camry. And what you have to understand is these two have a fundamentally different all-wheel drive system. The old one was only available in the naturally aspirated gasoline 4-cylinder with an automatic transmission. No hybrid, no V6 available with all-wheel drive. The new Camry, first of all, it's hybrid only across the lineup, and the all-wheel drive system works very differently. So where the old one was a mechanical linkage from the front end to the rear end, the new one has no linkage whatsoever. You've got the powertrain in the front, the gasoline engine, and a hybrid system, and then an electric motor in the rear with no drive shaft that connects them. So we're going to toss back and forth between the footage. So let's cut to the front wheel slip test on the old one to see how that one performed. Now into drive, we are stuck in the rollers. I'm going to slowly accelerate. Foot off the brake, onto the gas. Ooh, almost no difficulty, a great result. Great, and welcome back to 2024. So let's see how the front wheel slip test works on the new Camry. So once again, if we're going to get unstuck, that rear electric motor is going to have to engage. There's no drive shaft, no linkage, so unless that rear motor engages, we're not getting unstuck. So let's see what happens. It should be an on-demand all-wheel drive system. We've settled into the rollers. We're in drive, normal mode, just like we did it with the old Camry. Foot off the brake, gently onto the accelerator. Okay. So what you saw there was a considerable amount of spin from the front end, and then the rear end did push us off. But once again, the front and the rear end are on two different planes, so we may see a differential in speed front and rear that is a little different than the old Camry. Stepping inside the new Toyota Camry, wow, what an improvement over the old one, not only in terms of material quality, but overall design. I really dig what Toyota has done with this almost driver-centric approach, the way the dashboard curves toward the driver, making you feel like the primary purpose in this vehicle. Now, overall fit and finish is very high, and I really do like this red interior on this XSE trim, which adds a little bit of spice to a relatively, let's say, mundane category of vehicles, and it really does elevate the experience. Now in here, we do have a leather wrap steering wheel with, or should I say, a synthetic leather wrap steering wheel with red stitching and all of your Toyota safety sense features right here on the steering wheel. So adaptive cruise control, lane centering, easily falls to hand. 12.3-inch touchscreen display takes up the main focal point of the dashboard. Pretty easy to use. It's the same system they use across the Toyota and now the Lexus lineup, and it's very well sorted by the 2024 standards. When this first launched, it did have some bugs, but now I'm really liking it. We do have physical controls for volume, which is a hit. No physical controls for tune, which I would appreciate, but then we also have physical controls for heated seats, ventilated seats, along with defrost for both the rear and the mirrors and the front, and also that dual zone automatic climate control. Well-placed air vents deliver good airflow, pretty good AC here in the summer months, and then we're going to find a Qi wireless charger, first one in a Toyota product that I found to work reliably and quite well. USB-A, 2 USB-C charging ports, nice size cubby, dual cup holders, too much piano black across the center console for my liking. We do have our automatic transmission selector, park, reverse, neutral drive in sport, and then we've got a couple of different drive modes here, eco, normal, as well as sport, and then EV mode and a hold there for the drivetrain, and we also have a good sized center console. But yeah, I mean, pretty comfortable cabin. I am 6 feet tall. With the panel roof, I have just enough room. This is worth noting. With this setup, if you have a more upright driving position like I do and you're over 6'2", 6'3", I think you're going to run into some height issues. Next up is the diagonal slip test. So opposite ends of the car are stuck in the rollers, the left front and the right rear. This is a very common situation in the snow, in the slush, in the ice. Imagine you're climbing up a slippery curb. This is what this test simulates. Let's cut to the old car and see how it performed. A little bit of throttle. All right, the car's thinking about it. Traction control light is blinking. come on. There we go. Now, reviewing that footage in the old Camry, what you'll notice is there's quite a bit of spinning and quite a bit of time before the all-wheel drive system, but more importantly, the traction control system responds to distribute torque and wheel speed where it needs to go before that old Camry got unstuck. So let's see if the new 25 Camry can perform any better. Normal mode, traction control on. We're gonna go foot off the brake, onto the gas, and let's see what happens. Here we go. So, all right, so a very progressive engagement of the brake. So I maintained a gentle throttle position. We saw those wheels spin up, and then we started to feel the brakes grab, and then a very progressive grab as it pulled us down. So far we're doing pretty good. Rear seat in the Camry, well, that race red continues in here, which is pretty cool. Decent sized second row of seats, minus the headroom. Once again, it's 6 feet tall. I'm now actually pretty well buried into the headroom of this vehicle. Legroom is very decent. And the middle seat, also not so bad, except for the headroom, which is very poor, and a fairly large hump. So it's nice and wide, but you do have a hump here and quite a lack of headroom. And then back here, we do have a USB-A and USB-C port. So for kids, for shorter occupants, this is fine. If you're taller, I might look into something like a RAV4. Checking out the trunk in the Camry. So automatic popper there, but on this XSE, it is a manual pull down, but we're looking at 15.1 cubic feet worth of space with the seats folded up, and we can fold them down from the rear here. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull that lever, pull this one on this side too. Let's check out that folding mechanism. And seat back does come down. Small step up there between the trunk area and the rear seat, but overall, a very usable rear end in this Camry. Underneath the floor, a little bit of a lift here. We're gonna find a space saver spare tire, which in 2024 is kind of a nice feature when most new vehicles have gone to tire inflation kits. With the Camry up on the lift, we can take a look at some of its engineering features. Now up front, we're gonna find a 2.5 liter transversely mounted, naturally aspirated 4-cylinder mated to a hybrid system and an eCVT. Now the old Camry all-wheel drive was only available, like I said, in that 4-cylinder gasoline variant, no hybrid, with a conventional torque converter automatic. The new Camry in all-wheel drive has an eCVT, but it's not a belt and cone setup, it's a planetary gear setup, so it's a very long-lived design. Now if we look at the suspension, a McPherson strut front suspension with surprisingly wide tires on this vehicle, optional 19-inch wheels wrapped in 235 width tires, pretty beefy. Along the underside, lots of black plastic shielding, of course no drive shaft on the center, as we mentioned. Instead, we've got our exhaust system front and center. And then out back here, we're gonna find an independent rear suspension setup with that rear differential and motor in the rear drive unit, and then a single exhaust going to 2 ports out rear. Time for the next test. This is the 3-wheel slip test. So both left wheel. All right, time for the next test. This is the 3-wheeled slip test. So both left wheels are stuck. The right rear is stuck. Only the right front is on the ground. Now this is a very extreme test, but we like to push the limits here at TFL. So let's see how the old Camry compares to the new one. We're settled in a drive, traction control on, off the brake, onto the throttle. Oh, it's really trying. Come on, figure it out, figure it out. Oh, very good. There you go, so you saw how that old Camry performed. Let's see how the new one does. Still in normal mode, still driving around mode, no traction off, no sport mode, nothing like that. If we get stuck, we can start playing with some settings. But let's see what happens. Foot off the brake, onto the gas. Well, we're getting a lot of spinning from that left front wheel, but not a lot of torque management over to the right. What if we go into the sport mode? Let's see if that has an impact. Well, we did end up getting off. I think ultimately what happened is we slid off the rollers because we got so much spinning. I would say, seat of the pants, that was a worse experience than the previous gen Camry. I'm not really sure why. we got such an extreme amount of wheel spin from that front left. I would have loved to see that brake start to actuate and grab and do something to force traction over to the right side of the vehicle. Yeah, that was not a great result, I have to say. This Camry all-wheel drive is about 30 horsepower up compared to the previous generation. What was weird about the previous gen is you couldn't get it in either the hybrid or the V6, so you were stuck with the base 4-cylinder. Now 30 horsepower is not a lot, but it's the way the power is delivered that makes this car a more exciting driving experience. So it's delivered via electrification, so you get a little zap of electric torque as you push down on the go pedal versus kind of a slow progressive buildup from that naturally aspirated 4-cylinder in the previous gen. Now granted, this car still has a buildup and it's not a particularly engaging driving experience, especially the suspension and the steering are just kind of smushy and dead, but for driving around, that's exactly what you want. It's a comfortable, relaxed driving experience. The game changer with this Camry all-wheel drive has to be the fuel economy. Now there's been many generations of Camry all-wheel drive in the past, some really, really legendary, but none have come anywhere close to this size, this comfort, and this level of fuel economy with four-wheel traction. We're talking 44 mpg combined with these big 19-inch wheels on this XSE package. That is incredible. I mean, that is the level of the first generation of Prius, but you don't have to drive around in the little dingleberry. This is a proper car with good design, a decent trunk, and a pretty big rear seat. The Camry is a pretty quiet driving experience overall. It's a very easy car to hop in and drive. The sight lines are pretty good. The camera system in this XSE is pretty good. It's just a simple vehicle to own and operate. You know it's going to last a long time, knock on Toyota, with this newest generation, and you know it's probably going to be fairly affordable to operate long term. Once again, knock on Toyota, but it's a very unoffensive driving experience. I feel like they've gone very kind of dynamic with the look, and especially with this racy red interior, but it's, I mean, mundane is a harsh word. Convenient is the easy word. It's not as fun as some of the older generations with the V6. It's just not. This powertrain, yes, it will get up and go, but you don't have that kind of direct feeling of having a torque converter automatic transmission, and you don't have kind of that howl of the V6, which sounded pretty cool with the right exhaust. So it's not a fun car to drive, but it's very unoffensive, great for beginner drivers, great for older drivers. It's just a good, comfortable experience. Now, a lot of folks think that the first thing we should do when we do these tests is hop in and turn traction control off, which is not what we want. We actually want that traction control to brake the spinning wheels, to force wheel speed over to the other side of the car to get us unstuck. So traction control on usually works better in these tests anyways. And for this final test, hopefully we'll see that. So this is a 3-wheel slip test with one rear wheel on the ground. Let's see how the old one did. All right, in a neutral, foot off the brake. We're settled in a drive, accelerating gently. Oh, it's trying to figure it out. Come on. Okay, well, we did make it off. I think that I got enough wheel spin to the point where we slid off the rollers. All right, now for the new Camry. So we're normal mode, traction control on. I really feel like this vehicle would benefit with like an added snow mode for some additional brake intervention to help in situations like this, but this is a really hard test for the all-wheel drive Toyota and Lexus products because only one rear wheel is on the ground, and oftentimes that rear motor doesn't have enough torque to not only get spinning on the rear end, but break the wheel on the rollers to force the other wheel on the ground to start moving. This is a pretty tough challenge, especially for these all-wheel drive hybrids, but let's see what happens. Only the right rear is on the ground, normal mode, onto the throttle. Once again, we're getting some crazy wheel spin from the front end, but not a lot of response from the rear. Let's go traction control turned off. Even crazier wheel spin on the front end, so we don't want that. Traction control on. Let's go sport mode. So look, in this test, the gasoline Camry kind of cheated. We got enough torque transfer to the rear end where it kind of hobbled itself off the rollers. This new one just isn't doing much of anything, to be honest with you, in getting us unstuck. I feel just a tiny bit of movement from the rear end, but we need more initial torque from that rear end, harder brake grab, more torque transfer to really get us unstuck. I'll go back into normal mode one more time. Let's go traction off in normal mode. See if I can force it off by kind of working the throttle a little. Yeah, we're stuck. Now what we were noticing on the front wheel 3-wheel slip test is there was enough torque transfer where we were like chirping that front tire that was on the ground, right? It was kind of grabbing and leaving little black marks. This rear tire just isn't doing anything. So I'm gonna try to basically steer my way off the rollers. This does not count as a test, but I don't have a buddy today to help push me. So I'm gonna basically try to steer my way off of the rollers like that. So look, folks, based on this initial testing, I have to say I'm more impressed with the older mechanical all-wheel drive system. I just didn't see that much torque delivery or torque transfer with this all-wheel drive system. And what we're gonna have to do is get them into the snow this winter and see what the real world performance is like. But so far, I'm liking that older mechanical system more. So look, a somewhat disappointing result from the Camry all-wheel drive in the TFL slip test. And I have to say, I think the system is all right for the occasional winter, you know, light to moderate snow. But if you've got a heavy extreme winter, and there are plenty of states in the US that are like that, I definitely recommend something a little bit more capable than the Toyota Camry. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. As always, this has been Tommy. Check out alltfl.com for the latest and greatest in new car reviews.